It is my privilege to introduce our next guest, and his name is Craig Shirley. Craig Shirley is a great American leader, a great American conservative patriot, and it is such an honor to have him on the show this morning. Craig Shirley is the founder and chairman and CEO of Shirley and Bannister Public Affairs. He's been in public affairs in Washington all across our nation for over 30 years. He is also an acclaimed author, and he is also the author of 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 bestsellers on Ronald Reagan. And he will be joining us shortly. Craig Shirley, welcome to the John Fredericks Show. In addition to being a Reagan biographer, having written 2 critically acclaimed books on Reagan's 1976 and 1980 campaigns, he's a longtime advisor to conservative causes. He's a noted lecturer. He has spoken at the Reagan Library, Eureka College, and the Reagan Ranch Centers in Santa Barbara. And it was Shirley Bannister, it was Craig Shirley's idea to resurrect and relaunch Reagan's Citizens for the Republic that was founded by Ronald Reagan in 1977. And it's also my honor and privilege to be a part of Citizens for the Republic. Welcome, Craig Shirley.
Hello, Martha. How are you? Happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th of July. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Sure, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Well, I was
actually minor correction.
Okay.
I've actually written 4 books on Ronald Reagan,
4.
not 3. So.
I'm sorry, 4 books on Ronald Reagan. And
yes.
and you know, wherever I go, whenever I mention that I am with Citizens for the Republic, and I say the name Craig Shirley, people all over the nation that I talk to are they admire you, they respect you, and they just think the world of you. And you are the best author of Ronald Reagan, and in terms of continuing Ronald Reagan's legacy. And
that's very kind. Thank you.
Yeah, and I was hoping you could speak just a little bit with us about Reagan Rising, because I have it, and I can't stop reading it.
Well, it's an unreported, underreported or unreported chapter in Reagan's life. Doug Brinkley, who edited the Reagan Diaries, told me some years ago. He said that despite almost 800 books written on Ronald Reagan, he said the realm of Reagan scholarship is just beginning to open up. And I've been a student of Reagan most of my adult life, and I worked for both my wives are in. I worked for Reagan in the 1980s, and we were part of those halcyon days, and which I always thought was kind of like, it must have felt for us being young conservatives in Washington in the 1980s was very, very exciting. And I thought, this probably is the way young Americans felt who came to work for JFK in the early 1960s. Mm-hmm. But Doug Brinkley told me that the realm of Reagan scholarship is just beginning to open up, and it's true.
Yes.
Is that there are so many underreported or unreported, including that critical period in which you're referring to the book Reagan Rising, between 1976 and 1980, because Reagan, he doesn't go through a reformation or a remaking or anything like that, but his conservatism becomes more refined, more subtle, and it is kind of the nexus of current events and a hero. Is that many times in history is that we see heroes or presidents or
yes.
candidates or whatever thrust forward at seemingly the right time, whether it's U.S. Grant or Abraham Lincoln or Washington or Teddy Roosevelt or Franklin Roosevelt. So many times is that the man is matched up perfectly with the times, and Reagan was in 1980. The man matched up perfectly with the times, but he needed that period between 76 and 80 to refine his conservatism so that he was ready by 1980.
Absolutely, and it's one of the questions that I know you and I have talked about before, but I want our audience to think about this as well, and that is, we are in such a critical time in our nation, and with our
yes.
new administration, what will Reagan's legacy be like in the future, and is his vision for America alive and well today?
Oh, I think so, Martha. And it's exemplified. Reagan often said, don't trust me, trust yourself, which is the ultimate expression of Americanism, which is the nation was founded based on individuality and individuals and not on institutions or class or a collectivization. So what you're doing with Citizens for the Republic and what the Tea Party is doing and so many other citizen activists who are rising up against corrupt and oppressive institutions is the Reagan legacy. But it's also the legacy of the founders and the framers who are all children of the Enlightenment and put their faith in men and women and not in any one governmental or regulatory institution. So so this is Reagan's legacy. I think it's alive and well, and I think it continues even today.
Oh, absolutely. And I am so excited about Citizens for the Republic. We have the opportunity to really entrench Reagan's values and to do so in a big way, and really with our Sunlight Project to expose corruption, and we're doing just that. And I am so excited. I want all of our listeners to go to CFTR.org. That's Citizens for the Republic, CFTR.org. Join our mailing list, get involved, donate to us, and we are going to make a huge difference. You're gonna be hearing from CFTR a lot. And Craig, I just want to thank you so much for having the vision to bring back Citizens for the Republic.
Sure. After we all have our doubts but also admiration about George W. Bush, but we all became concerned about the direction of the Republican Party. And in fact, during the Bush administration, the very phrase "big government republicanism" was coined.
Right.
You and I both reject that because we think it's inconsistent with true republicanism, with true conservatism, and that bigness. We know, and you've seen it up close and personal in your fights with the Commonwealth over corporate corruption and big government corruption. Is that bigness ultimately leads to a diminution of personal freedom and corruption. And so the very phrase "big government republicanism" was leading the Republican Party down to the path of corruption and big corporations. But it's interesting is that very few institutions inside the Republican Party have been dedicated to reasserting Reagan's principles of individuality and federalism in order to stop big government from operating, in order to stop big government from enhancing big corporations and create an oligarchy that really presses down on the private citizens of America. So, my hat's off to you for what you've done, and I know, with CFTR, because really the CFTR is the only group out there right now that's dedicated toward reasserting Reagan's American conservatism.
Absolutely, and the enthusiasm is off the charts wherever I go, and we're going to be seen and heard a lot moving forward, and I am just really excited about it. And we have a couple more minutes left. I was hoping that we could talk a little bit more about your new book, which is not on the shelves yet. Folks can pre-order it on Amazon, and that's Citizen Newt. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how can and I think you're on a speaking tour, on a book signing tour. Where can our listeners go to see you, have an opportunity to maybe ask some questions and get you to sign their books? How can they find you?
Well, the book tour is still being assembled, Martha, but as it is put together, it'll be on the HarperCollins webpage and also the CFTR webpage, hopefully.
Right.
Please.
Yes.
And also on CraigShirley.com.
Okay.
But it chronicles the true life and times of Newt Gingrich from the time when he was a young college professor in Carrollton, Georgia, at West Georgia State, to the time where he took over the Congress in November of 1994. And it's really quite historic and quite significant. Is that, in my bibliography, there are about 30 books on Newt Gingrich, but virtually all of them are written by liberals, and all of them are rancid, incorrect, filled with venom. And so it seemed to me that it was important, and I believe it even more today, is that I'm convinced now that only conservatives can write conservative history.
Right.
Liberals are too interested in pushing an agenda and pushing disinformation to fill their view of the world rather than just telling the facts. So I wrote a book that was fact-based about Newt Gingrich, which demonstrates he remains probably one of the four most important conservatives of the last half century, alongside Bill Buckley, Barry Goldwater, and Ronald Reagan.
Oh, absolutely. And I know I can't wait to get my hands on Citizen Newt. Both of these books, people can order them on Amazon, and they can follow you on CraigShirley.com.
Yes.
And also see all the great work we're going to be doing with, and we are doing with Citizens for the Republic at CFTR.org. And before we let you go, you've been so generous and kind with your time. It's been such an honor to have you on the John Fredericks Show. You've been in public affairs for
longer than I like to think.
More than 30 years? Is that fair to say?
Well, actually, it's since I just turned the corner, and now I'm playing on the back nine. It's probably been more than 30 years.
Okay, there you go. Well, and so we're in an era now where there are citizen journalists, right? I mean, you can tweet, you can push things out.
Anybody can be their own communications empire. Anybody.
Right.
And that is such a great thing, because it detracts power from big liberal media. The big three networks, the big city newspapers no longer have nearly the power they used to have, and now it's citizen power.
That's
and
right.
I think Reagan would applaud the ability of the average private citizen to communicate their own ideas and their own opinions without having the filter of big media.
Absolutely, and that's where I was going with this. Thank you, Craig Shirley. You're a great American patriot. Folks,
likewise.
you can thank you for coming on the show, and God bless you, and happy Independence Day.
You too, Martha. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This is Martha Boneta, host on the John Fredericks Show.